Well, good evening. This is Tuesday night Bible study. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we're going to jump right into the Word. So actually tonight we are going to be talking about being more than a conqueror. There's been some stuff that has come up lately about things like that. So I figured it would be a good time to focus on that and realize who we are and whose we are, what Yahweh has created us, who He has created us to be. Then, of course, I came across, actually just a couple of days ago, I think it was, maybe longer than that. It was a devotion from Rick Renner that is actually titled, "Never Forget That You Are More Than a Conqueror." But before I get into that, we're going to go to the scripture. So Romans chapter 8. And we're actually going to start at verse 26. So too the Holy Spirit comes to our aid and bears us up in our weakness. For we do not know what prayer to offer, nor how to offer it worthily as we ought. But the Spirit Himself goes to meet our supplication and pleads in our behalf with unspeakable yearnings and groanings too deep for utterance. And He who searches the hearts of men knows what is in the mind of the Spirit, what His intent is, because the Spirit intercedes and pleads in behalf of the saints according to and in harmony with Yahweh's will. We are assured and know that Yahweh, being a partner in their labor, all things work together and are fitting into a plan for good to and for those who love Yahweh and are called according to His design and purpose. I think that's one of the things that we need to remember, most importantly, is what Yahweh thinks about us. He has plans to prosper us and not to harm us, plans to give us hope in the future. As I say right there, that's all things that work together and are good to and for those who love Yahweh and are called according to His design and purpose. We're all called according to His design and purpose. So we need to really remember how He perceives us, how He sees us, what He has in store for us, and it's all good things. Verse 29, for those whom He foreknew, of whom He was aware and loved beforehand, He also destined from the beginning to be molded into the image of His Son and share inwardly His likeness, that He might become the firstborn among many brethren. And those whom He thus foreordained, He also called. And those whom He called, He also justified. And those whom He justified, He also glorified, raising them to a heavenly dignity and condition or state of being. What then shall we say to all this? If Yahweh is for us, who can be against us? Who can be our foe if Yahweh is on our side? He who did not withhold or spare even His own Son, but gave Him up for us all, will He not also with Him freely and graciously give us all other things? Who shall bring any charge against God's elect, when it is Yahweh who justifies, who puts us in right relation to Himself? Who shall come forward and accuse or impeach those whom Yahweh has chosen? Who is there to condemn us? Will Yeshua the Messiah, who died, or rather who was raised from the dead, who is at the right hand of Yahweh, actually pleading as He intercedes for us? Who shall ever separate us from Yeshua's love? Shall suffering and affliction and tribulation, or calamity and distress, or persecution, or hunger, or destitution, or peril, or sword? Even as it is written, for Thy sake we are put to death all the day long. We are regarded and counted as sheep for the slaughter. Verse 37, yet amid all these things, we are more than conquerors and gain our surpassing victory through Him who loved us. So we are more than conquerors. And what comes with being more than a conqueror? Victory. Victory every time. So, in a time where, the devil is trying to, we're in the last of the last of the last of days, and he's on a rampage. He's out to get, so to speak. And, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a head pastor of a major church or if you're a believer sitting in a congregation. He's out. He's out to get, because he knows he's at the end of his rope. He knows he's running out of time. So in this time where the devil is trying to distract people, believers, he's trying to distract, he's trying to discourage, he's trying to get individuals to grow weary and quit. He's trying to get people to think, I just can't do this anymore. You know, he's really having a heyday with that at this time. With all this stuff that he's been trying to do, this is when more than ever we need to remember that we are more than conquerors. Despite what he's trying to tell us, despite if he's trying to say to you, you know what, you've done all you can do, it's not working, just give it up. You know, despite him maybe saying, you know, what's the point of all this? We've been going and going and going, and nothing's changed. What's the point? You know, no matter what him, you know, being like, you know, that, you know, grass is greener on the other side, okay? But it's not. It really isn't. It might be greener in Belize, I just have to say, but just have to add that in there. But you know what? No matter what he's trying to do, and there's a lot he's trying to do. There's a lot he's trying to do by distraction and discouraging and growing weary and stuff like that. But we got to stand strong against it. We got to remember who we are and whose we are. We got to remember that we are more than conquerors. No matter what we've been through, no matter what's going on, no matter what, we got to remember what Yahweh has said about us. We are more than conquerors. And how do we get to this we are more than conquerors? It's by living a life of faith and living a life of authority. All power and authority has been given to us. To what? Trample upon serpents and scorpions and overcome all the works of the enemy. Distractions, discouragement, growing weary, trying to get you to quit, that's a work of the enemy. But we are more than conquerors over that. So before I go on, I'm going to read this thing I came across from Rick Renner. And obviously he uses Romans 8:37. And all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. How do you see yourself? That's a very important question to ask yourself. You know, we talked in here before a while back about perception. How do you perceive things? You know, people perceive things a certain way. I think it was when we were talking about avoiding the very appearance of evil and how people perceive things a certain way. So if they may see something and it's totally innocent, but they perceive it differently and they can spin it out into nowhere. So how do you see yourself? Very importantly, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself the way Yahweh sees you? Do you see yourself the way, you know, some relative may have seen you and wasn't too nice about how they saw you? You know, how do you see yourself? You've got to see yourself the way Yahweh sees you. So how do you see yourself? As a champion who wins nearly every fight? Or as a loser, someone who struggles along, never seeming to conquer a single problem? How you perceive yourself is very important because it will ultimately affect the way other people see you. Have you ever met someone who had a bad self-image or who always seemed to carry an air of inferiority around with them? It isn't hard to discern this attitude in people. They feel so badly about themselves that they exude their negative perception of themselves and their sense of insecurity. On the other hand, if you've ever met individuals who are self-confident and self-assured, you know that it's easy to recognize their confidence. Why? Because a confident person exudes confidence. It is simply a fact that you will inevitably project what you feel about yourself to others. So this question about how you see yourself is very important. If you see yourself as a champion who wins every fight, that is exactly how others will see you. But if you see yourself as someone who struggles and wrestles with a bad self-image, that is precisely how others will perceive you. So, Romans 8:37 shows what the word of Yahweh has to say about us. In this verse, Paul declares that we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. I want to especially draw your attention to the phrase more than conquerors. It comes from the Greek word huper nikos, a compound of the words huper and nikos. By joining the words huper and nikos together into one word, Paul is making one fabulous, jam-packed, power-filled statement about you and me. The words more than are derived from the Greek word huper, which literally means over, above, and beyond. It depicts something that is way beyond measure. It carries the idea of superiority, something that is utmost, paramount, foremost, first rate, first class, and top notch, greater, higher, and better than, superior to, preeminent, dominant, and incomparable, more than a match for. I like that. Think about like if you go into a, well, not us personally go into a boxing match, but somebody, you're more than a match for. Somebody is going into a fight and they think, nah, I'm not going up against him because I know he's more than a match for me. But we're more than a match for the enemy. That's how Yahweh sees us, and that's how we have to see ourselves. More than a match for, unsurpassed, unequal, and unrivaled by any person or thing. Now, Paul uses the same word to denote what kind of conquerors we are in Yeshua the Messiah. We are hyper conquerors. Paul uses this word hyper to dramatize our victory. This is what Paul meant to get across in Romans 8:37. We are greater conquerors, superior conquerors, higher and better conquerors. We are more than a match for any foe. We are utmost conquerors, paramount conquerors, top-notch conquerors, unsurpassed conquerors, unequal and unrivaled conquerors. I think he's saying the word conquerors so often, okay? He's trying to get something through. You are a conqueror. No matter what the devil tries to tell you, you are a conqueror. No matter what man has tried to say to you or tell you, you are a conqueror. Get that inside of you. You are a conqueror. But we must continue to the next part of the verse where Paul calls us conquerors. The word conqueror is from the Greek word nikos. The word nikos describes an overcomer, a conqueror, a champion, a victor, or a master. It is the picture of an overwhelming, prevailing force. Think of it. This is the words he's using to describe us. You are more than a conqueror. So he's using that to describe us as we're overcomers. We're champions. We're victors. We have a prevailing force. We're overwhelming to the enemy. However, the word nikos alone wasn't strong enough to make Paul's point, so he joined the words hyper and nikos together to make his point even stronger. When you put these two words together, they form the word hyper nikos, which declares that in Yeshua the Messiah, you are an overwhelming conqueror, a paramount victor, or an enormous overcomer. Okay? Enormous overcomers. That's who we are. This word is so power-packed that one could interpret it as a phenomenal, walloping, conquering force. You got a phenomenal, walloping, conquering force, nothing can go up against that, not even the devil himself. That's precisely who you are in Yeshua the Messiah. So stop looking at yourself as a struggling loser. Regardless of your past experiences, you must begin to look at yourself through Yahweh's eyes and in the light of Romans 8:37. This verse declares that you are always the winner and never a loser. And when you begin to see yourself the way Yahweh sees you, it will change the way others see you too. Resolve right now to see yourself the way the word of Yahweh does, as a walloping and conquering force. You are more than a match for any adversary or foe that would come against you today. More than a match for any adversary or foe that would dare try to come against you. This is how Yahweh sees us. He sees us as being able to overcome anything the enemy tries to throw our way, to be able to conquer anything that the enemy tries to throw our way. So, the word conqueror, Rick talked about what it was in the Greek and anything. Well, the definition of the word conqueror is, surprise, surprise, one who conquers, okay? Conqueror is one who conquers. Conqueror is one who wins a war. Conqueror is one who overcomes an adversary. Conqueror is one that overcomes by force. What does the Bible say? It is written, the violent take it by force. So a conqueror is one who conquers. Well, what exactly does the word conquer mean? Conquer means to overcome and take control by force. It successfully overcomes a challenge. So now think about it. The devil comes to throw all types of challenges. Like I said at the beginning, a challenge of distraction, a challenge of discouragement, a challenge of just being done and tired and wanting to quit. A challenge, it could be a health challenge. It could be a financial challenge. It could be a family challenge, a relation challenge. It could be any type of challenge. But because we're more than conquerors, we are able to successfully overcome these challenges. Conquer also means to gain mastery over. Think of these definitions, apply them to yourselves, because this is what he's saying. To conquer means to defeat someone or something. Conquer means to gain, to win, or to succeed. So we are more than conquerors. Anything the enemy tries to throw our way, we've already been designed. We've already been, it's in our DNA to conquer it, to overcome it, to gain mastery over it. You know what? That challenge is no match for us. That health challenge is no match for us. That discouragement is no match for us. Whatever the enemy tries to throw is no match for us because we are more than conquerors. So let's look at a couple scriptures. These are our strength scriptures. But 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 12. Like I said, in the times that we're in, we need to make sure we're walking by faith. Walking by faith and not by sight. We need to make sure that we're walking in our authority. We've been given authority to overcome so many things. Just like Yeshua. As he is, so are we in this world. And anything that comes our way, we already have it in us to be able to overcome it. But what gets people into trouble most of the time is not taking thoughts captive. So the moment the enemy tries to send something your way, you've got to take that thought captive. The moment he tries to send a thought of discouragement, to send a thought of weariness or whatever, you've got to take it captive. You can't entertain those thoughts because once a thought lodges and you let it sit there, and you just let it sit there and stew and take root and continue to grow. We talked about trees on Sabbath, okay? You don't want the tree, the root of a thought, to penetrate and grow. Now, can you overcome it? Yeah, you can if you do it the right way, but it's going to take a lot more work to overcome it. That's why the Bible says, take thoughts captive and make it obedient. Because if you don't take them captive and you entertain them long enough, the devil is going to gain an advantage over you. And before you know it, you're going to find yourself in a place where you're like, how did I even get here? How did I even allow myself to go down this road? How did I even allow myself to have these thoughts? How did I even allow myself to be like, yeah, you know what? See ya. How did I even allow myself to get there? Because I didn't take these thoughts captive. And and it's not something where he throws a thought and you take it captive and now you're scot-free forever. No, that's not how he works. He throws them and he throws them and he throws them. But one of the keys to being more than a conqueror is making sure we're taking thoughts captive and applying our faith and using our authority against the enemy. So, and realizing that Yahweh has already given us every key that we need to overcome in his word. He's already given us everything we need to be successful, to live victorious. So in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 12, it says, I give thanks to him who has granted me the needed strength and made me able for this. So, by illustration only, if you're facing something, he has granted us the strength we need, and he's made us able to do it. Any distractions that come up, he has given us the strength we need to not get a hold of that distraction and to be able to overcome it. But really look into the meat of what Yahweh says about us. And what it's saying in Timothy is like, I'm giving him thanks. I'm giving Yahweh thanks because he has granted me. The Amplified says the needed strength. I find it interesting that the Amplified says that. But he has given me the needed strength and made me able for this. Made me able for what? Made me able to do what Yahweh has called me to do, no matter whatever it is. He's given me the strength to do it, and he's made me able to do it. No matter how hard it may seem in the natural, no matter what persecution may be coming, no matter what, thing comes one after the other. You didn't think Yahweh knew that that was going to take place? Nothing catches him by surprise. Nothing catches him off guard. But beforehand, he's already given us the needed strength and has made us able for this. Yeshua the Messiah our Lord, because he has judged and counted me faithful and trustworthy. All of us in here, he has counted and judged us faithful and trustworthy, appointing me to the stewardship of the ministry. Okay, he counts us faithful. He counts us trustworthy. He's given us all these things, and he's made us more than conquerors. Now let's look at Philippians chapter 4 in the Amplified. Philippians 4:13 says, I have strength for all things in Yeshua who empowers me. I am ready for anything and equal to anything through him who infuses inner strength into me. I am self-sufficient in the Messiah's sufficiency. This is a good one to say every day, and especially out of the Amplified, and say it to yourself every day, because it's like, yeah, you know what? I am more than a conqueror. And why am I more than a conqueror? Because I have strength for all things in Yeshua who empowers me. I am ready for anything. And what does it say? Anything is anything. So no matter what the enemy tries to throw, discouragement, health thing, whatever, I am ready for anything, and I am equal to anything through him who infuses inner strength into me. We know what infuses mean. It's infused in us. It's not just, how do I describe it? It's just not in us. It's been infused in us. This inner strength to overcome all has been infused in us. And I am self-sufficient in the Messiah's sufficiency. So, to conquer, to gain, to win, to succeed. So when I was looking up conquerors and stuff like that, and it was in a side note, it gives the words that are similar to it and stuff like that. So right next to conquer was the word warrior. I was like, how often do we hear the word warrior in this congregation, right? So I decided to go on a little journey with warrior. So, we are more than conquerors. We are warriors. What does it say in Joel 3:10? Let the weak say, I am strong. The Amplified says, let the weak say, I am a warrior. That's how Yahweh sees us, as warriors. And that's how the devil has to see us. The devil has to see us as warriors. So warrior, my little journey on the warrior thing. So warrior is a brave or experienced soldier or fighter. A warrior is a person engaged or experienced in warfare, a person who shows great vigor, courage, or aggressiveness. I don't see too many warriors. I don't think I've ever seen a warrior turn around and go running away, fleeing, and screaming for their, going running, Mommy, Mommy, Mom, come help Mommy. No, you don't see, particularly see warriors calling for their mothers, okay? Just saying. But, so, warrior. A person engaged or experienced in warfare, a person who shows great vigor, courage, or aggressiveness. Although I do have to say, just on a side note, there is a mom that you should be crying out to, even as a warrior, if need be. And we all know who she is. Just have to add that in there. So it is, in that case, it's all okay to call for your mom, okay? I've actually been there, done that, but it's a good thing. So warrior, the ability to fight to protect. I especially like that one. Because it's like, when you're in the battle for yourself, it's, how do I say this? When you're in the battle for yourself, it should be a priority for you. It should be one thing to be in a battle for yourself and you're fighting and stuff like that. But there's a little bit of, now I don't know if this is right or wrong, there's a little bit of a twist though when you're in a battle, so to speak, for a child. When you're a mom and you're in a battle for your child, and when you remember that you're a warrior, and that warrior mentality tells you that you have the ability to fight, to protect. So when you're in a battle and your thinking is, I'm fighting to protect this individual, in a battle for anybody, in a battle for another person, you're in a battle to fight to protect this individual from what the enemy is trying to do. To rise up as a warrior and fight no matter what. Warriors fight no matter what. They fight until they fight, okay? And they're going to fight to protect no matter what. So a warrior, the ability to fight to protect. A warrior has the strength and skills to win. And this is having the mindset of a warrior. To have a mindset of a warrior, you need to know the strength and the skills to win. But a warrior knows it's different than just being a regular soldier. There's a difference between being a soldier and a warrior. Now, soldiers, they're experienced, they know how to fight, they're trained to do things. But when you're a warrior, I don't know why, I don't know if it's the wrong picture, but whenever I kept getting back when, with the Roman soldiers, you think of a warrior. Rick Renner has a book on the armor of God, and he goes about all the pieces that the Roman soldier wore, dressed as a warrior. Those guys were warriors. They knew they were warriors. They knew how to act as a warrior. They knew how to fight as a warrior. They had the mindset, the strategies of a warrior. They had a warrior mentality. But it's not all just in the head. You've got to have the heart of a warrior. You've got to have the heart of a conqueror. You've got to have the heart of an overcomer. It's not one thing, being in your head a lot of times is what gets you in trouble. But when you're in your heart, it's a totally different situation. A warrior has the ability to face challenges head on with courage and determination. It's about being resilient in the face of adversity and never giving up. That's a warrior. I'm going to read that again. The ability to face challenges head on. Not the ability to have a challenge come at you and you turn and run the other direction, or you go and hide under your blankets, or you go, whatever. It's the ability to face it head on. I heard Lisa Bevere say one time that the best way to overcome a fear is to face it. You face it. You look the fear in its face. You don't run from it, because the moment you run from fear, it's got you. It has you, and it knows it has you. But when you face something head on and you're like, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not scared of you. You're taking it on, and it knows you mean business. The ability to face challenges head on with courage and determination. To be a warrior, you have to have courage. You have to be determined. You have to have, like I said, being a warrior has a different mindset to them. You've got to have this, fight ability. A fight song. We all need to have our own fight song. This is our fight song. It's about being resilient in the face of adversity and never giving up. When you're in the face of adversity, in the natural, it's a challenging thing. In the natural, in the face of adversity, of all this stuff coming at you and everything like that. But in the face of adversity, you've got to be resilient. You've got to be strong. You've got to remember who you are and whose you are. And you've got to act like what it says in Romans, that you are more than a conqueror. It's about being resilient in the face of adversity and never giving up. it seems like we've been hearing so much of that lately across the boards for quite some time now about, never giving up. Well, why would that be? Well, it would seem like the enemy is on an all-out rampage to get people to give up, to get people to quit. Jordan mentioned it on Sabbath when we were live streaming about if anybody had seen Pastor George's sermon from the Sunday before about getting back in the saddle again, about not quitting. Not quitting, getting back up, getting back in the saddle, going forward, and never giving up. That's a true warrior. That's somebody that's more than a conqueror, never giving up. Now, is it easy? Not necessarily. There's a lot of things that aren't easy. But when it comes to when you have an enemy that's fighting against you, you need to know who your enemy is in order to overcome them. You need to know who it is you're fighting, and you need to know what strategies to use to fight properly. And, when you're in the face of adversity, when you have an enemy coming at you, you need to be able to stand your ground. You need to be able to be resilient and strong and take it head on to overcome. And, when Pastor George was talking that Sunday about getting back in the saddle, what did you say? You get knocked down, you get right back up. You get knocked down again, you get right back up. Doesn't matter if you get knocked down 10 times, you get right back up. Because eventually, that one getting right back up is what's going to be victory. I use the example a lot, but it's like, it doesn't matter how much time something takes. When you're believing for something, with him, the passage of time is nothing. And it does not matter how much time something takes. So when you're believing for something, and it's like, yeah, okay, and you're moving forward, and it's like, boom, and you get knocked down, you get back up. And so then some more time goes by, and it's like, okay, I'm still fighting for this, and boom, got knocked down, boom, you get back up. The more you keep getting back up, and the more you keep fighting, and the more you show the devil, I'm not quitting until I get what I know belongs to me. The thief must repay sevenfold what he has stolen. And we are in the days when it's time for the enemy to pay back. He has stolen enough. And it's time for the enemy to pay back and for us to take what rightfully belongs to us. So Pastor George was talking about that. Get back in the saddle. Don't quit. Don't quit. I can't tell you how many times just in that one particular week I would turn somebody on and it would be like, don't quit. They're talking about don't quit. I wrote it down somewhere, but I was listening to somebody and he had this interesting, the title had caught my attention. And the title said permission to quit. And I thought, oh, permission to quit? Somebody's granting permission to quit. I'm like, what is this about? I was like, huh? It was giving you permission to quit against what the enemy's trying to do to you. So whatever attack's trying to come at you, it's permission to quit that attack from coming at you. It's not permission for you to quit and give in to the attack. It's permission for you to cause that attack to quit. And it was like, oh, okay. It was a whole little different thing on that one. But it's just like, but it's all across the board. You see it everywhere. So obviously, if you see so many people talking about it, and it's obviously the devil is just attacking so many believers with that. He's attacking so many people with trying to give up, trying to quit, trying to just, what do they say, throw in the towel type of thing. But it's like, no, like what Pastor George was saying, get back in the saddle again. It's like, before when I was a little girl, when I lived in Maine, I had a friend of mine who did horses. And now I was not a horse person at all or whatever. I was like 10 years old at the time. And every day in the summertime, her and I used to go, her parents had acres and acres of land up in Maine. And they had their horse barn. It was all in the woods, but they had their horse barn, and she had 2 horses. And she had this white horse, and she had this tan horse. And for some reason, I was always drawn to the white horse. It's just like, something about white horses, And so I would remember her and I would go there, and she had been riding for, well, I would say forever, but we were 10, so at 10, I guess that seems forever. I don't know what time, I don't recall what age she had started riding. But she always just asked me to, let's go on a trail ride. And I was just like, I didn't wanted nothing to do really with horses. I was just not a horse person. But it was just like, but I would go with her in the barn and we'd be brushing the horse and stuff like that. I mean, I like horses. I'm an animal person, but I was nothing into wanting to ride them or do stuff like that. So, so I remember this one particular day in the summertime, we had gone up in the morning time. We used to go up in the morning and we were brushing them. And it was, like I said, there was something about this white horse. There was always something about this white horse, and I couldn't put my finger on this white horse. But I would always be brushing the white horse and stuff and be talking to her and stuff like that. And this particular day, my friend was like, let's go on a trail ride. I was 10 years old. Like, I've never been on a horse. We're both 10 years old, for goodness sakes. Where are our parents, It's like, and they're going to get to hop on these horses and go for a trail ride through the woods. These are all these trails through the woods in Maine. And, but I remember it was like, no, I'm good. I'm all set. And, you get on the horse and I'll walk alongside him. And that's what she did. I mean, she rode constantly. So she was on this horse and I was alongside of him, and we were walking through the trail. And I don't recall exact details, but I just remember something had happened in the woods that spooked the horse. And when it spooked the horse, it reared up. And she wasn't, now, this is a side note, side sermon type of thing, but you always got to be aware. Don't ever let yourself be caught off guard in any situation. You've always got to be aware and alert to everything that's going on around you, because the enemy will take that one little second, that one little opening to strike. So whatever was going on at that time, whatever it was in the woods that caused the horse to spook, I guess maybe it could have been simple as a bird chirping or something, I'm not sure, But it caused the horse to spook, and he reared up. And next thing you know, she's on the ground. It's like, boom, on the ground. And I'm just kind of like, that's exactly the reason why I'm not going to get on a horse. But I remember her saying to me, now, like I said, we were just these little girls. We were little, 10, 11 years old. She got back up. Now the horse didn't take off, which is interesting. He didn't take off running or whatever. He just kind of was like, I'm done with you, threw her off, and he just stood there. She got back up. She walked over and she took a hold of him, and she turned and she looked at me and she's like, as soon as you get thrown off, you get right back on him. And that always stuck. As soon as you get thrown off, you get right back on him. Why? If you don't, you allow thoughts to come in, you allow fear to come in, and then if that penetrates, then it's like, yeah, no, I'm not getting back on a horse, I'm all set. But what did she do? She instantly got back on him. She got back in the saddle, and it was like, and I always remembered that. That always stuck with me. It was like, here I am looking at her laying on the ground, and I'm thinking, that is the exact reason why I'm not getting on this horse, why I chose to walk alongside you. But for her, it was like, no. I mean, didn't even think twice about it. Got up, said that to me, and jumped. Now, here we are, like I said, 10 years old. We're 10-year-old children, and she said that. But it's like, now that when I think back on that as an adult, it's like, she knew something at 10. And whoever taught her that, I'm assuming it must have been her parents. Her parents taught her a vital nugget for life. It's like, when you get knocked down, you get right back up instantly, because you can't allow fear to take root, because fear will stop. Fear will paralyze. So, she got back up on the horse. She didn't quit, got on the horse, and we continued on the trail ride and turned around and went back to the little barn they had, and all was well. But it's like, that was just, when I heard Pastor George talking about that last Sunday, get back in the saddle again, I thought of that experience with her. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. Don't quit. Just because the enemy tries to do something, just because he said something, just because whatever, don't allow that to affect you so that you quit. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get you to quit so he takes you out of the race. If he's working so hard on you with that, okay, twist it around. Turn it back on him. If he's working so hard, if he's putting so much time and energy into trying to feed you with lies and trying to get you to quit, you must be extremely dangerous to the enemy. He knows that you're more than a conqueror. You must be a warrior in his eyes, if he's willing to spend so much time filling you with all this stuff, trying to get you to quit. Why? Because he's scared of you. And that's why we've got to remember, we are more than conquerors. So people with a warrior mindset are fighters. They're constantly moving forward and always striving to be better. But like I said, it's just not a mindset, it's a heart thing. To have a heart of a warrior always is going to mean overwhelming victory. Victory every time. So what is the characteristics of a warrior? A warrior is fearless. A warrior is bold. A warrior is courageous. A warrior is strong. A warrior is brave. A warrior has integrity. Now all those other ones, those are like, I don't know how else to describe them, like more like strength characteristics. You know, you're bold, you're courageous, you're brave, you're stronger, you know, fearless, but integrity. A warrior is a person of integrity. And that's key to be a warrior. To be more than a conqueror, you've got to be an individual of integrity. A warrior, another one that really stuck out to me, a warrior is disciplined. Discipline is a big, big thing. You got to be disciplined. And a warrior is disciplined. Think if you had an undisciplined warrior, that whatever thing the enemy, if your warrior's out there in the battlefield and all it takes is for the enemy to, I don't know, guess like maybe, send a piece of chocolate through your way and it causes you to be like, oh, what is that? That is not being disciplined, okay? If you can't be disciplined to something like that, okay, that's the very thing that could throw you off. So even think about stuff like that. Think about something that the enemy, an area where you need to work on being disciplined in. Because a true warrior is disciplined no matter what. A true warrior can just stand there. I thought of the British guards at the palace where they're just standing there and you can walk right up to them and make faces and do all these things and they don't move. They're just, now I'm not saying they're warriors, but I'm talking about them as an example of being disciplined. They're so disciplined and so focused on what their goal is and what they've been trained to do. You can come up and do all types of things and they will not budge. They just stare straight ahead. That's discipline. That's discipline. So a warrior is fearless, bold, courageous, strong, disciplined, brave, and is a person of integrity. A warrior is somebody who won't even think twice about fighting on the front lines. That's a true warrior. There's all different lines in the battle. There's all different positions in the battle. And in the natural, I guess it could be safer to be in the back part. But a true warrior is one that's going to be right up on the front lines. Right there, ready to go, ready to fight, ready to take on the enemy, head on, no matter what he's doing or saying, all set to overcome that. Because a warrior knows who he is. A warrior truly knows who he is. And it doesn't matter. Like I said, somebody could walk right up to him, and it's like, I know who I am. I know who I am, and no matter what you try to say or no matter what you try to do, I know I've already conquered it. I know that I've got the upper hand, and I've got the victory. So, Yahweh has called us to be more than a conqueror. And we can't ever forget that we are more than conquerors. So one last scripture is Psalm 18. So Psalm 18, starting at verse 29. We're going to read a little bit of this. So Psalm 18, verse 29. For by you I can run through a troop, and by my God I can leap over a wall. As for Yahweh, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is tested and tried. He is a shield to all those who take refuge and put their trust in him. For who is Yahweh except the Lord? Or who is the rock save our God? The God who girds me with strength and makes my way perfect. You see how many times in the Bible there's things about strength? You know, I can do all things through Yeshua who gives me strength. You know, he has made me able to do these things. The God who girds me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like hinds' feet, able to stand firmly or make progress on the dangerous heights of testing and trouble. That's what the Amplified says. So, you know, able to stand firmly on the dangerous heights of testing and trouble. Able to stand firmly, not backing up, not backing off, not running away in the heights. Think of that. It doesn't just say, you know, able to stand firmly with testing and trouble. He's saying in the heights of testing and trouble. So that means, like, no matter how extreme something may try to come against us, we're able to stand firm against it. We're able to conquer it. He teaches my hands to war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have also given me the shield of your salvation, and your right hand has held me up. Your gentleness has made me great. You have given plenty of room for my steps under me, that my feet would not slip. Verse 37, I pursued my enemies and overtook them. Neither did I turn again till they were consumed. I smote them so that they were not able to rise. They fell wounded under my feet. When I read this, I think of the devil. I'm not thinking of a person, just saying. You know, I'm always thinking about the devil when I'm reading this. So think of that. The devil's our enemy, okay? I pursued my enemies and overtook them. Verse 39, for you have girded me with strength for the battle. You have subdued under me and caused to bow down those who rose up against me. That's who we are. You know, as it say in Isaiah, no weapon formed against us shall prosper, and any tongue that rises against us in judgment shall be shown to be in the wrong. What does that say? You have girded me for strength for the battle. So whatever battle may come, he's already girded us with the strength to fight it. And you have subdued me and under me and caused to bow down those who rose up against me. So anything that tries to rise up against me, any negative thought, any health attack, any finance attack, anything that tries to rise up against me, I've already been given the strength to overcome it. I've already been made more than a conqueror. And that's what we've got to remember. We've got to never forget that we are more than conquerors, and that in him we can overcome anything and have the victory at all times. Amen. Well, thank you for joining us out there on Facebook. I hope you gathered something from this, and we will see you on